Close your eyes and take a breath. Let this truth settle deep into your being. It's already done. You've already won. Before you try to figure out how, before the mind demands proof, understand this. The greatest power you hold is your ability to assume the end. When you walk through life as if your dream has already unfolded, life has no choice but to mirror it back to you. Stop chasing. Stop striving. You don't need to beg for what is already yours. The moment you claimed it, in consciousness, it became law. You are not waiting on the world. The world is waiting on you to become the one who already has it. The breakthrough isn't out there. It's in here. Within. In the silence. In the assumption. In the feeling of knowing. Feel now what you thought you needed to see to believe. Smile as if the victory has already arrived. Wake up each day with the certainty that everything is aligning in your favor, because you have aligned with it. Inside first. Don't rehearse failure. Don't revisit the past. Don't doubt the seed once planted. Live from the result. Speak as if it's done. Feel as if you already are. Every day, repeat this. It is done. I already won. My reality bends to my assumption. My world reflects my belief. I rest in knowing this is mine. Repeat it until the truth of it burns brighter than doubt, until your body walks lighter, until peace replaces panic, because it's not about forcing the world to change, it's about remembering who you are. And from that place of still, confident knowing, the impossible becomes inevitable. So today, and every day, assume the end, rest in the truth, feel the win. It's done. You already won. Now act like it. What you see in your mind's eye carries more truth, more power, and more creative force than anything your physical eyes could ever behold. The outer world is not the source of your experience. It is the reflection. All that you encounter in your daily life, whether joyful or painful, is merely the echo of what has first been imagined within. This may sound impossible to the rational mind. But your imagination is not some idle daydreaming tool. It is the creative faculty through which your reality is shaped. The moment you dare to see yourself in possession of your desire, to feel it deeply as if it were already so, you begin the process of manifestation. Reality does not unfold from action first. It unfolds from being. You do not need to wait for things to change before you believe. Belief itself is the cause of change. When you hold an image in your mind persistently, saturated with feeling and conviction, the universe must conform to that inner picture. You've been taught to believe in what you see, but creation begins with believing in what you do not yet see. The unseen is not the unreal. The invisible world of imagination is the blueprint of all things that come to pass. Every invention, every success, every transformation has always begun in the invisible space of someone's mind. When you understand this, you begin to treat your imagination with reverence. It is not fantasy. It is prophecy. To assume the state of the wish fulfilled means to enter, emotionally and mentally, the condition you desire to experience right now. You don't wait for your bank account to change to feel abundant. You don't wait for love to arrive before you feel chosen. You don't wait for recognition to feel worthy. You claim those states now, within. And by dwelling in that state consistently, you bring about its outer reflection. This is not wishful thinking, it is deliberate creation. You are not hoping, it's already done in the unseen, and your job is to remain loyal to that unseen truth until it becomes visible. You will be tempted to doubt. The world may tell you otherwise, but the world is old news. It is only reporting what has already been impressed on the subconscious. If you want something new, you must create a new impression, and that begins with imagination. The secret is to persist. One moment of imagining is powerful, but sustained, repeated inner vision is transformational. You return to it again and again no matter what you see. You carry the inner scene with you throughout your day, like a secret knowing. This is how your life changes, not through struggle, not through force, but through inner certainty. You are the artist. The canvas is your life, the brush is your imagination, and the paint is your emotion. So paint boldly, create without apology, and never forget, what you dare to assume as true within will one day be confirmed without. Imagination creates reality. Everything begins from the end. This truth overturns how most people live their lives, constantly chasing, striving, hoping something will happen one day, but the secret is not in waiting. The secret is in assuming. The end is not a distant goal to reach, it is the starting point. When you see the end clearly in your imagination and feel it as your present reality, you ignite a force within you that begins to shape the world outside you to match that inner conviction. You must begin with the feeling that it is already accomplished, not in the future, not someday, but now. When you think from the end rather than of the end, you change your position in consciousness. You are no longer someone striving to achieve something, you become the person who already has it. You walk differently, you speak differently, you carry yourself with a quiet confidence. This inner shift is not invisible for long. The outer world begins to reflect that change in the form of people, events, and circumstances aligning with your assumption. Most people live from a state of lack, trying to get to a place they don't believe they are. But if you remain in the state of, I don't have it yet, then you will perpetually experience not having it. That is the law. Life mirrors your internal state. You cannot cheat it, but you can use it. When you live from the end, life becomes responsive. It bends around your belief. It rearranges itself to match your conviction. Think of a movie. Before the first scene is shot, the ending is already written. Every moment in the story leads there. Similarly, when you decide the end in your imagination and emotionally accept it as fact, your life begins to script itself toward that conclusion. You don't have to know how it will happen. The how is not your concern. Your only responsibility is to dwell in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, to embody the state of the one who already knows it is done. There is tremendous power in this. When you see yourself as already healed, already wealthy, already loved, already successful, you are impressing that state onto your subconscious. And your subconscious does not question. It accepts what you feel to be true and responds with circumstances that confirm it. Aishi. This is not blind belief. This is creative faith. It is mental causation. It is the understanding that you are the beginning, and what you assume as your end will write the script of your life. You can hold that end in stillness, in peace, in silent knowing, and allow it to draw all things necessary to fulfill it. So start today, not by working harder to get there, but by closing your eyes and entering the state of already being there. Speak from it, think from it, feel from it, live from it. Because the moment you do, your journey begins not toward the end, but from it, and everything else becomes a bridge to its fulfillment. Your inner conviction is the silent architect of your outer world. Everything you experience on the outside is a direct mirror of what you consistently hold within. This is not poetic philosophy, it is law. The outer world has no choice but to reflect the dominant beliefs, assumptions, and feelings that live inside you. If you want to change what is happening around you, you must first change what is happening within you. The world responds not to your wishes but to your certainty. If you feel undeserving, unnoticed, or defeated inside, no matter how hard you try to change your circumstances, you will keep encountering the same patterns dressed in different forms. But the moment you shift that inner belief, even before any outer evidence appears, life begins to change, not through effort or struggle, but through reflection. The outer world bends to match the inner conviction. Conviction is not just a passing thought. It is a deep, settled knowing. It is the emotional and mental state you return to again and again, even in silence. You may not always speak it, but you feel it. And that feeling becomes your point of attraction, the foundation of your experience. If you carry the conviction of success, success finds you. If you live with a quiet certainty of being loved, love unfolds naturally, not because of what you do, but because of what you are being within. Many people try to change the world by changing outer conditions, by manipulating people, forcing events, or waiting endlessly for the world to give them permission to feel better. But it never works. Even when it seems to, the results are temporary, because the root cause, your inner state, has not shifted. The only permanent change comes from within. You are the operant power. When you claim a new belief about yourself, and you stay loyal to that belief regardless of appearances, the world must eventually confirm it. It cannot do otherwise. The outer is simply a shadow of the inner. Just as a shadow cannot move independently of the object casting it, your circumstances cannot act independently of your inner world. This is why it is said, change your conception of yourself and you change everything. Begin by observing what you are repeatedly affirming and assuming on the inside. Are you thinking like a winner while feeling like a failure? The outer reflects not just what you say, but what you feel to be true. So align your inner conversations with your desired outcome. Speak inwardly with faith. Feel as though your dream is already a fact. Inner conviction doesn't mean shouting affirmations in desperation. It means gently, but firmly, knowing, in the silence of your heart, that what you desire is already yours. That shift may seem small, but it creates ripples across the fabric of reality. And those ripples gather, build, and return to you as visible, tangible change. When you change your state of being, you change your destiny, because the outer world is not happening to you, it is happening through you. You do not move towards success, you move from it. The moment you stop striving to become and start being, everything changes. Most people live as if their desires are far away, something to be chased, achieved, or earned. But this very mindset of pursuit implies that you are not it yet. And as long as you operate from the feeling of lack, of separation, you will remain in a cycle of longing rather than living. Living from the state means assuming the identity of the person who already has what they desire, not hoping to become it someday, but embodying it now. It is an internal shift in awareness, not an external checklist of accomplishments. If you want to be successful, you must first feel successful. If you want love, you must first feel lovable. If you want freedom, you must feel free inside, regardless of current limitation. This is the difference between effort and embodiment. Effort says, one day, I'll get there. Embodiment says, I already am. When you live from the state of your desired self, your thoughts, emotions, and actions naturally align with that version of you. You no longer have to force change. You simply act as one who has already changed. Your energy becomes congruent with your intention. Imagine a person who wants to be confident. If they constantly think about how unconfident they are and how much they need to improve, they reinforce the identity of insecurity. But if they close their eyes and feel what it would be like to already be confident, to speak, walk, and respond from that place, they start drawing experiences that match that new identity. Not because they've mastered some trick, but because they've aligned their inner world with the result. This principle is true for any area of life: wealth, health, relationships, creativity. You do not wait for life to give you permission to feel like the person you want to be. You decide, you become, and in doing so, you make yourself magnetic to the experiences that correspond with that new self. Living from the state is not about pretending, it's not about faking it, it's about inwardly accepting that this is now who you are, and then allowing the world to catch up. The outer world is always a lagging indicator. It reflects what you believed and felt consistently, not what you're trying to prove in the moment. So you must persist in the state, even when nothing on the outside has changed. That is true faith. That is the secret to transformation. You walk as the person who already has the result you think from the desire fulfilled. You feel the joy, the gratitude, the confidence of having it now. And over time, life will mirror back that inner reality with undeniable clarity. The state you live from is the world you live in, so step into it, not someday, but now. Don't move toward your dreams, live from them, and they will move toward you. Repetition is the language of the subconscious. While the conscious mind may grasp new ideas quickly, the subconscious, where all beliefs are stored and reality is shaped, only accepts what is repeated, felt, and emotionally charged. This is why transformation is not a one-time event but a continuous process of reconditioning your inner world. If you want to experience lasting change, you must repeat the truth of your desired reality until it becomes second nature. You are not a prisoner of your past thoughts. You are a product of your dominant ones. And those dominant thoughts are formed through repetition. Every time you affirm a belief, visualize a scene, or feel the reality of your desire fulfilled, you are impressing it deeper into your subconscious. One repetition might stir hope, but sustained repetition creates identity. What once felt like a possibility eventually becomes your natural state. This is how habits of thought are built. You may not believe something the first time you say it, that's natural. But if you say it again, feel it, embody it, and return to it day after day, something starts to shift. The resistance softens, the doubt fades. The idea goes from foreign to familiar, and finally to fact. You no longer just say it, you know it. You no longer try to convince yourself, it simply feels true. This is why daily mental discipline is vital. You cannot dip in and out of your desired state and expect a stable result. Reality is consistent. Therefore, your inner work must be too. When you repeat something enough times, it doesn't just stay in your mind. It sinks into your nervous system, your posture, your tone of voice, your decisions. It becomes who you are. The subconscious is always listening, and it cannot distinguish between what is real and what is vividly imagined and emotionally felt. So each repetition is like a seed planted. One by one, those seeds take root, and over time they bloom into new conditions, new experiences, and new possibilities. Say it out loud, silently, in writing. Feel it as if it's already done. Live it in your imagination and in your actions. Even when your outer world tells you otherwise, go back to the truth. Repeat it not just with words, but with conviction. Let it echo through your day, in the quiet moments, in the face of doubt, in the stillness of your mind. This is not blind repetition, it's creative programming. You are speaking to the deeper part of you, the part that governs behavior, perception, and outcome. And the more often you repeat your chosen reality, the more your subconscious accepts it as law. Eventually, what was once effort becomes ease. What once felt like pretending becomes living. And what was once a distant dream becomes the life you wake up to. So don't underestimate the power of repetition. It is the bridge between desire and manifestation, between belief and becoming. Speak the truth of your vision every day, until the world has no choice but to echo it back. Faith is not merely a thought, it is a felt experience. It is not an idea you agree with in your mind, but a state you become in your body, your emotions, and your energy. Real faith does not live in words alone, it lives in how you breathe, how you walk, and how you respond to the world around you. When you know something is already done, there is no anxiety, no tension, no striving. There is peace, there is stillness, there is certainty that doesn't need proof. This kind of faith is not blind, it is not passive. It is rooted in the recognition that the unseen is more real than the seen, and that your assumption, your inner knowing, has creative power. You don't need to see the full path. You don't need constant validation from the outside. You just know. And that knowing carries a frequency that reality responds to. You can tell the difference between hoping and faith by how it feels. Hope often contains a trace of doubt, an attachment to outcome, a fear it may not work. But faith is restful. Faith doesn't check the clock. Faith doesn't panic when appearances contradict the desire. Faith says it is done, and acts accordingly. It releases the need to force or chase. It no longer tries to control. because it already possesses. This is why faith must be felt. You can repeat affirmations 1,000 times, but if they are filled with tension and uncertainty, they do not carry the imprint of belief. But when you say something and feel it to be true, when your whole being resonates with that truth, you impress it deeply onto the subconscious. That impression becomes the mold through which your reality is formed. Faith is trust. It is surrender. Not surrender in weakness, but surrender in knowing that once the seed is planted, it will grow. You do not dig up a seed every day to see if it is working. You water it, you nurture it, you give it light, and you know it will bloom. That's how you treat your desires, with the same quiet confidence that what you have assumed is already taking form, even if you can't yet see it. When you walk in faith, you begin to feel different. There's a calmness that surrounds you. You're no longer reacting to life, you're responding from a deeper place of knowing. You become immune to distractions and doubts because your inner reality is more vivid than any temporary outer circumstance. Faith is not something you wait for, it's something you choose. You drop into it, you claim it, and when you do, something within you changes. The struggle ends, the fear dissolves, and in its place is a steady, grounded assurance. I already am. It already is. This is the kind of faith that moves mountains, not because the mountains were never real, but because faith made you bigger than them. When you embody that knowing, life aligns, not by chance, but by law. Because what you feel to be true, consistently and deeply, must eventually become your experience. So now you know the truth. It's done. You already won. Not because you forced it, but because you dared to feel it. You no longer need to chase what's already yours. You're no longer waiting. You are living from it. Each day you return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You don't move toward success. You think, act, and believe from success. You understand now that imagination creates reality. The end is the beginning, and your inner conviction shapes the outer world. Through repetition, you are reprogramming your subconscious, and through faith, not blind hope, but embodied knowing, you allow life to respond to your truth. Let this message echo in you daily. Speak it, feel it, live it. It's done. I already won. Thank you for giving your time, your focus, and your heart. May you walk forward not with effort, but with knowing. Thank you.
Close your eyes for a moment. Just breathe. And sit still. For once, don't chase, don't ask, don't strive. Just be. Because in the silence of your being, you will hear something powerful, something real, a whisper from the infinite that says, you already have it. This is the great mystery. What you are running after is already yours. You do not need to scream to the heavens or beg the universe. You simply need to sit still and listen once. Just once. In that sacred stillness, you will realize the truth. You are not a beggar. You are the heir. The jackpot you seek is not in the future. It is in the present. But only the still, the quiet, the faithful can see it. So many of us live as though life is outside of us, something to be hunted, earned, or fought for. But true power lies not in effort, but in knowing, and knowing is born from stillness. The world teaches you to hustle, but heaven teaches you to imagine. When you close your eyes and feel the reality of your desire, when you see yourself holding that winning ticket, living in that home, speaking from that stage, loving from that heart, you enter the dimension where it already exists. And when you feel it, it becomes real. You don't have to do it twice. You don't have to keep repeating or chasing. Once is enough when your heart is aligned and your belief is whole. Sit still. Don't move in desperation. Move only when the inner vision compels you. When the voice within says, now is the time, then you act. Not from fear, but from knowing. This is the power of inner listening. You are not here to chase, you are here to remember. To remember that the jackpot, the dream, the love, the success was never outside of you. It was always within, waiting for you to claim it in silence, not with noise, but with faith. So today, stop everything, sit still, listen once, just once. That's all it takes. Because the jackpot is already yours. When you learn to still the mind, you open the door to a deeper reality. A realm where what you desire is not a possibility but a certainty. In this sacred stillness, there is no striving, no doubting, and no waiting. There is only the awareness that the thing you want already exists, not in some distant future, but here, now, in the invisible. Most people live in a state of inner noise. Thoughts race, doubts multiply, worries dominate, and so they live disconnected from the quiet, knowing that their desire is already fulfilled. But when you become still, truly still, when the mental chatter subsides and you allow yourself to fall into that inner silence, something miraculous happens. You begin to tune in to a frequency that was always there, but previously drowned out by the static of fear and overthinking. Stillness is not laziness. It is not passivity. It is spiritual alignment. It is entering into the inner chamber of your imagination with reverence and trust. In stillness, your desire becomes clear. You are no longer trying to create it. You are remembering that it is already yours. This is not a metaphor. This is not poetic language. This is the truth. Everything you could ever want already exists in the field of the unseen. What you call the future is merely an unfolding of what you have already accepted as true. But you cannot accept anything deeply while the mind is noisy and reactive. The noise of the outer world will keep convincing you that you lack something, that you must work harder, be better, or wait longer. But in stillness you are reminded, you are not lacking, you are becoming aware. You are aligning with the truth that your desire is already complete in the invisible realm, and your only work is to embody it with feeling, not with effort, but with inner rest. When the mind is still, the body relaxes, the emotions soften, the breath deepens. In that sacred pause, your imagination is no longer interfered with. You can see clearly. You can feel the wish fulfilled. You can dwell in the end not as hope, but as certainty. This is why so many struggle to manifest, not because they do not want it enough, but because they never sit still long enough to feel that it's already done. They keep reacting to the outer world, and so the inner vision never takes root. But when you are still, when you refuse to be moved by what appears to be missing, you give your imagination permission to speak. And what it tells you is this: you already have it. Do not underestimate this practice. Stillness is not a break from manifesting. It is the power behind it. You do not need to beg. You do not need to plead. You only need to feel from the end in stillness and let that feeling become your truth. It is already finished. You are not waiting on life. Life is waiting on you to become still enough to receive it. So stop striving, sit still, feel it done, and it shall be. What you seek is not something far off, not something that needs to be chased, built, or earned. It is already done, complete, finished in the unseen. You do not need to create it. You simply need to become aware of it. Awareness is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, the inner and the outer, the imagined and the experienced. This is the greatest secret of all. Every desire you hold in your heart already exists in the infinite storehouse of creation. The moment you imagine it with feeling, it becomes a reality in the unseen. You may not yet see it with your eyes, but that does not mean it is not real. The world will tell you that what is real must be touched, counted, or proven. But the inner world knows a deeper truth, that reality begins with consciousness. And what you accept as true within will, in time, express itself without. So you are not here to make things happen. You are here to recognize that they already are. And once you shift from chasing to receiving, from striving to knowing, you allow the unseen to take shape through you. The process is not one of force but of alignment, not of effort but of surrender, not of doing but of being. When you say, I want this, you are speaking from the place of separation. But when you say, it is already mine, you are speaking from the place of union. That is the key. You do not manifest by desperately wishing something into existence. You manifest by embodying the feeling that it already belongs to you. You enter the state of having, not wanting, because wanting only perpetuates more wanting. But awareness of having opens the door for it to unfold in your experience. You are the one who must change, not the world. The outer world is merely a reflection of your inner assumptions. The mirror does not change until the face before it does. So if you believe your desire is far away, hard to reach, or uncertain, the mirror of life will reflect that belief back to you. But if you walk in the inner conviction that it is done, that it exists now, and that nothing can stop it, then the world bends to that truth. You do not beg the universe to deliver. You become the one who already has. You feel from the end. You live in the assumption. You think, speak, and act from the place of completion, and the world rearranges itself to match that vibration. There is nothing to create. It's already created. There is only something to become aware of. And once you truly know that it is yours, not hope, not wish, but know, then everything shifts. You don't manifest by effort. You manifest by realization. The realization that you are already in possession of that which you desire, it is done. And the moment you know this with quiet confidence, you will see it unfold, not by your will, but by the law of life itself. So stop searching, stop doubting, be still and know. What you seek is already done. You have been taught to chase, to hustle, to grind your way towards success, love, wealth, peace. But the truth is far simpler, far more powerful. You don't attract anything, you receive it. Life doesn't reward the one who struggles the hardest. It responds to the one who aligns most deeply. The jackpot, the dream, the miracle you desire, it is not a prize for your pain. It is the result of your inner agreement. When you believe you must earn your desires, you place them far from you. You create a distance between yourself and what is already yours. The more you chase, the more you affirm that you do not yet have it. And so the desire stays at arm's length, a promise never fulfilled, because your very energy says, I don't have it yet. But when you align, when you enter the state of already having it, the desire comes to you, or more truthfully, you finally allow it in. Life is always offering you exactly what you're ready to receive, not what you're begging for, not what you're struggling to earn, but what you are open to. What you have said yes to in your imagination and accepted with feeling. Struggle is not the path. Struggle is a signal that you are out of alignment with the truth. The truth is, everything you seek already exists. Your role is not to create it, not even to attract it, but to tune into it, like turning the dial on a radio to hear the station that's already broadcasted. The feeling is the key. If you want the jackpot, feel what it's like to already have it. Don't ask how will it come. That is the language of doubt. Instead, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Rest in it. Breathe in it. Let that feeling become your home. When you do this, the energy of your being changes. You are no longer a beggar, you are a receiver. And receivers don't chase, they open. To receive something, you must believe you are worthy of it. You must believe it is possible for you. And most importantly, you must believe it is already done, not in the future but now, in the invisible. That belief, that assumption, begins to reshape everything. Your emotions, your behavior, your magnetism. The world outside may still look the same for a moment, but within something has shifted. You are no longer reaching, you are welcoming. And in that welcoming state, the door opens. What once seemed far off flows naturally toward you, because you are no longer resisting it with disbelief, fear, or need. You do not attract the jackpot through force. You receive it through alignment. And alignment is not about action, it is about identity. Who are you being? What are you feeling? What are you assuming to be true? This is not about deserving, it's about allowing, and you allow by surrendering to the feeling of already having. So be still. Let's go of the chase. Step into the feeling now, and you'll see what you want has been waiting for you all along. Not to attract it, but to receive it. Imagination is not a daydream. It is not a childish escape or a passive indulgence. It is the most powerful creative force you possess. When you imagine something clearly and feel it deeply, you are not pretending. You are planting the seed of reality. Imagination is the evidence of things unseen, the doorway through which the invisible becomes visible. Everything that exists in your world first existed in the mind of someone who dared to imagine. The chair you sit on, the phone in your hand, the home you live in, all were imagined first, before ever taking shape in the physical world. So why would your dreams be any different? The moment you imagine and feel that the jackpot is already yours, you establish it as a spiritual fact. It becomes a truth in the unseen realm, and the unseen always precedes the seen. To many, imagination feels unreal because it lacks physical evidence. But in truth, the unseen is more powerful than the seen. What is seen is temporary and shaped by past thoughts and beliefs. What is unseen, the world of imagination, is timeless, infinite, and malleable. When you use your imagination with purpose and feeling, you are engaging the very substance of creation. You don't need to see the jackpot in your bank account to know it's yours. You need to feel it in your heart and accept it in your mind. That feeling, that assumption, is the spiritual receipt. It is the proof. The inner vision is more important than the outer evidence, because the outer always mirrors the inner, never the other way around. You don't wait to believe once you see it. You believe and then you see it. This is the law of life. To imagine is to believe in what is not yet seen, and to feel it as done is to claim it as yours, long before it arrives. You are not hoping. You are not wishing. You are knowing that what you hold in your imagination is just as real as what you can touch. The key is feeling. Imagination without feeling is hollow, but when you add emotion, when you dwell in the state of already having, you move your desire from thought to spiritual reality. The universe does not respond to words or effort. It responds to vibration, to inner conviction. And your inner conviction is revealed in how you feel. You must learn to honor your imagination, to take it seriously, to sit in quiet moments, close your eyes, and see yourself already in possession of what you want, not as a dream, but as a fact. When you do this often, consistently, and with faith, the physical world begins to reflect what you have accepted in the invisible. This is how you shape reality. from the inside out. You imagine it, you feel it, you live in the end even if nothing outside has changed. And then, like a shadow following form, the outer begins to catch up. Imagination is not separate from reality. It is reality, waiting to be seen. What you imagine with feeling becomes your future. It is not a matter of if, it is only a matter of when. So stop waiting for the evidence. Create it within, because the moment you imagine it as yours, it already is. In a world obsessed with speaking, explaining, and doing, the quiet art of listening is often forgotten. But it is in the silence, the stillness between thoughts, that the real answers emerge. Listening is more powerful than speaking, not because it is louder, but because it connects you with the truth that doesn't need to be said. When you sit in stillness and listen within, you don't hear noise. You hear clarity, you hear certainty. And in that sacred inner space, a quiet voice says, "It is finished." And in that moment, you can go so far, you can pull back to your... This is not the voice of your ego, your fears, or your doubts. It is the voice of your spirit, your higher self. The part of you that already knows everything is working out. The part of you that knows your desire has already been answered. Not will be, already is. But you can only hear this voice when the surface mind goes quiet, when you stop trying to speak your reality into existence and instead listen to the one already created within. Most people pray with desperation. They talk endlessly about what they want, what they lack, and what they fear. But true prayer, the kind that moves mountains, is not a monologue. It is a conversation. And to hear the reply, you must stop speaking. You must sit. You must listen. Listening is the act of surrender. It is the letting go of needing to control, needing to figure it out, needing to force an outcome. In listening, you make space for truth to reveal itself. You become a receiver. And what you receive is peace, assurance, and the deep knowing that what you asked for is already done. When you listen within, you connect to the finished version of your life, the one where the desire has already manifested, the healing already occurred, the door already opened. You don't have to do anything, you just have to hear it. And hearing is more than sound, it is a spiritual recognition. It is the awareness of completion. The outer world may not yet reflect it. The bank account may still be empty. The relationship may still be distant. But if you've heard it within, if you've felt the still, small voice whisper, "It is finished," then you can rest, because the outer always catches up to the inner. The problem is, many never listen long enough. They speak their prayers but never stay for the answer. They visualize but never pause to receive the confirmation. They look outward for signs but never listen to the truth that was always within them. You were never meant to live by effort alone. You were meant to live by guidance, quiet, powerful, undeniable guidance. But to access it, you must be still. You must go beyond the noise of the world and the noise of your own mind. And in that sacred space of stillness, you hear it. Not a command, not a condition, but a conclusion. It is finished. That is the voice of truth. That is the sound of manifestation. Not a shout, but a whisper that carries the weight of eternity. And once you hear it, you don't need to convince anyone, not even yourself, because now you know. You don't need to speak it into being. You only need to listen and receive. Faith is not noise. It is not force. It is not the endless repetition of affirmations, nor the anxious striving to prove that you believe. Faith is quiet. It is calm. It does not panic. It does not chase, and it does not argue with reality. True faith is not loud effort. It is silent certainty. It is the inner stillness that says, "This is already mine," and never looks back to check if it's working. You see, faith is not something you perform, it is something you know. And that knowing doesn't come with fireworks or shouts. It comes in the quiet places, the spaces in between action, where you close your eyes and simply rest in the feeling that what you asked for is already done. Many people confuse faith with trying harder, as if the louder they declare it, the faster it will manifest. But effort comes from doubt. Effort says, "I must make this happen." Faith says, "It is already happening and I will allow it." There's a difference between pushing something into place and allowing it to unfold. Faith is always the latter. Real faith is the surrender of the ego's need to control every detail. It is releasing the timeline, the method, the how. It's letting go of the struggle to understand and stepping into the peace of trusting what is unseen. You're not being passive, you're being receptive. You're not giving up, you're letting go. Faith is not hoping. Hope has a tremble in it, a maybe, a what if. But faith is grounded, it rests, it knows, it walks as if it's already there. It speaks as though the desire has already materialized, and it does so without needing applause, without announcing it, and without checking in every 5 minutes to see if anything has changed. You will know when your faith is real because you won't need to talk about it. You will walk differently, breathe differently. You'll move through the world with a quiet confidence that doesn't require validation because you already know it's done. The greatest acts of faith are invisible. They happen within. The silent choice to stay in alignment when nothing outside supports your vision. The decision to feel wealthy even when your account is empty. The commitment to feel loved even when no one calls. That's faith. Not because you're faking, but because you're trusting a higher law. The inner creates the outer. Always. And so you surrender. Not because you've given up, but because you know there's nothing left to fight for. What you want is already yours. You've seen it in your imagination. You've felt it in your spirit. And now your only work is to be the one who already has it. Quiet acceptance. That is the highest form of belief. You no longer chase the thing. You no longer argue with reality. You simply live as though it's done, because in the higher realm, it is. Faith doesn't need to make noise. It only needs to stand still. Because in stillness, everything aligns. And when you walk in quiet faith, life rises to meet you exactly where you are. The greatest power you hold is not in your effort, but in your stillness. Your desires are not distant dreams waiting to be earned. They are spiritual realities waiting to be received. When you sit still, listen within, and align with the feeling of already having what you seek, you step into a divine truth. It is already done. You don't have to chase. You don't have to beg. You only need to remember. Your imagination is the blueprint, your feeling is the key, and your faith is the quiet doorway through which all things are made real. Let the world be noisy, you remain still, and in that stillness, you will hear it clearly. The jackpot is already yours. Say thanks. Thank you for allowing these words to enter your space today. May they awaken something deep within you. A knowing, a peace, a certainty. Trust the silence. Honor your imagination, and above all, receive what is already yours. There comes a moment when you no longer ask, when will it happen, but instead declare, it has already happened. That is the shift. And once you step into it, everything will change. You see, the overflow you desire, the financial freedom, the loving relationship, the unshakable peace, is not coming to you. It is already here. It has always been here. But it is only revealed when you begin to see differently. You have been trained to think that life responds to effort, to time, to hustle, but life responds to states of consciousness. And the state you dwell in, the inner story you rehearse, is the blueprint of your future. This is the truth most never understand. You do not receive what you want. You receive who you are being. So let me ask you, who are you being right now? Are you being the one who lacks, who waits, who doubts? Or are you being the one who already has, already is, already knows? The overflow is not a reward for your struggle. It is the natural outcome of alignment. When you align your inner world with the end you desire, the outer world must echo it. It has no choice. This shift is not outside of you. It begins in your imagination. There you feel what it would be like if your desire were already fulfilled. You walk in that feeling. You breathe in that feeling. You live in that feeling. And as you persist, the old world falls away. Not because you fought it, but because you no longer matched it. The world changes when you change states, not when you plead, not when you strive, but when you assume the overflow as a fact before the senses confirm it. To shift is to say, I remember who I am. To shift is to say, I am the one who creates. To shift is to realize that the source lives in you, moves through you, speaks as you. And from that state, you prepare. You don't beg. You don't chase. You prepare. Prepare your mind, prepare your space, prepare your spirit, not in desperation, but in certainty. Just as a pregnant mother prepares the nursery not hoping but knowing the child is coming, so too must you prepare for overflow. The shift is simple, but you must make it real. You must feel it real. You must dare to believe before there is proof, because once you do, everything changes. The flow becomes unstoppable. The doors you once knocked on swing open. The people you once chased now seek you. The life you once only imagined becomes the life you wake up in. You have shifted. And now, prepare for overflow. This idea may seem strange at first because we've been conditioned to believe that we must chase, strive, and prove ourselves worthy of abundance. But the truth is this: everything you seek, the wealth, the love, the peace, the success, already exists. It is not somewhere out there, locked away in the future. It is here, now, in a dimension of consciousness that you must enter, not achieve. There is no need to earn what is already yours by right of awareness. You don't have to become more, do more, or have more effort before the overflow arrives. It is not about time. It is not about deserving. It is about alignment. And alignment is not an action, it is a state. You see, this world responds not to your desires, but to your assumptions. The secret is not in trying harder, but in dwelling deeper. Deeper in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Deeper in the belief that what you long for is not only possible, but already here, already yours, already done. Most people wait to see evidence before they believe. But that is the backward path. That is the road of delay. The truth is, you must believe and then you will see. Not because belief magically creates something new, but because belief shifts your awareness to the version of reality where it is already true. Think of reality like a radio dial. All frequencies already exist: music, news, silence, noise. They are all broadcasting now, but you only hear what you tune into. The same is true of overflow. It exists now. It has always existed. You've simply been tuned to a different station. One of lack, of waiting, of someday. But the moment you shift your state, not through force, but through assumption, everything begins to move. Not because the world changes, but because your position within it changes. You don't climb the mountain of success. You relocate within consciousness. You ascend inwardly. You close your eyes and feel what it would be like if it were already true. You imagine how it would feel to live in the overflow, to no longer hope, but to know, to no longer strive, but to receive. And the moment you do this, you send a new signal to life. You become magnetic, not because you're doing more, but because you are being differently. You become one with the thing you once pursued. And when there is no more distance between you and it, when you feel it, live it, breathe it, it appears. The overflow was never running from you. It was never hiding. It was always waiting for you to rise into the version of yourself who could hold it, not by effort, but by embodiment. Not by pleading, but by believing. So stop waiting. Stop rehearsing lack. Stop assuming that tomorrow holds what you can claim today. The door is already open. The banquet is already set. The invitation has already been sent. All that remains is for you to step in. The overflow is not late. It is not delayed. The shift begins with assumption, not action. This is a truth that unravels the illusion of struggle. So many spend their lives chasing, striving, exhausting themselves in pursuit of a better life. They believe that more effort will unlock the doors of abundance. But effort alone, without alignment, is motion without meaning. It is noise without sound. Real change begins not in what you do, but in what you believe to be true. Assumption is the seed of all creation. It is the silent power behind every result. When you assume something with conviction, truly accept it as your internal reality, the outer world is compelled to mirror it. You do not need to fight for overflow. You do not need to beg the universe, chase opportunities, or push harder. The truth is simpler, quieter, more powerful. You need only assume the state where overflow is already yours. Assumption is not wishful thinking. It is not positive thinking dressed in hopeful disguise. Assumption is the deep inner knowing that what you desire is already yours in the unseen. It is a quiet confidence that doesn't seek proof, because it is the proof. You are not here to convince the world, you are here to convince yourself. And when that inner shift happens, when the assumption becomes so real to you that it becomes your natural state of being, the outer world must conform. It has no choice. You might ask, but shouldn't I be doing something? Shouldn't I take steps toward my goal? And the answer is yes, but only after the inner shift. Action without the foundation of assumption is often frantic, disconnected, and ineffective. But when your actions rise from a place of inner knowing, they are effortless, aligned, and divinely timed. This is the reason many fail to see results despite hard work. They take action while still doubting, still fearing, still assuming lack. And so their actions are poisoned with resistance. The outer world reflects not their actions, but the energy behind those actions. Assumption rewrites your identity. When you assume abundance, you begin to walk differently, speak differently, expect differently. And life responds. People treat you according to how you see yourself. Opportunities appear to match your internal vision. This is the unseen law that governs all things. Reality flows from the invisible to the visible, from the assumed to the actual, from the inner to the outer. You must be bold enough to live from the unseen, bold enough to feel wealthy before you have the money, bold enough to feel loved before anyone calls, bold enough to feel successful when nothing yet confirms it, because this is the path of the Creator, not the victim, the one who knows. My world is not happening to me. It is coming from me. So stop measuring your progress by what your eyes can see. Begin to measure it by how real the assumption has become within you. When the feeling is natural, when the assumption is automatic, when you no longer question whether it's coming, that is the shift. That is when you move not by force but by faith. And that is when the world moves with you. Imagination is the womb of overflow. It is the sacred space where all things are conceived before they are born into form. Nothing you experience in the outer world comes without first being imagined. The mind is not simply a place for thought, it is the origin of reality. Every great life, every transformation, every miracle began first in the unseen, in the quiet chambers of imagination. This is not fantasy or daydream. Imagination is the creative act. It is a divine power within you that shapes the world you live in. You are not observing reality, you are generating it. Your thoughts, your visions, your inner pictures, they are not passive, they are the blueprint, and life is following their instructions. What you imagine as true and persist in imagining becomes your lived experience. The outer world is delayed reflection. It is the mirror that takes its shape from your inner world. When you sit in stillness and imagine wealth, love, peace, success, and you do so not as a hope, but as a felt reality, you awaken a process. You set a law in motion. Life begins reshaping itself to reflect your internal state. But you must understand this. Imagination must be vivid, alive, and consistent. It is not enough to imagine once and return to doubt. You must dwell in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You must live from it. Your imagination must become more real to you than the facts around you. That is the secret of creation. When you feel overflow within, when you see yourself walking in abundance, acting from abundance, giving generously, living freely, the world takes notice. You will be surprised how circumstances bend, people shift, resources appear, doors open, not because of effort, but because of alignment. The world is always echoing the dominant feeling you carry. This is why it is said that the kingdom is within. You do not chase overflow. You conceive it in imagination and carry it as real. That inner conception is your seed. And just like a seed planted in soil, it begins to grow. Unseen at first, but eventually breaking through into physical reality. Most people imagine lack more often than overflow. They rehearse fear. They imagine rejection, loss, failure, and then a surprise when life delivers it. But life is not personal, it is principle. It gives back what you give it in thought and feeling. So if you want overflow, begin within. See it clearly, feel it deeply, make it so real that it lives in you as a memory from the future. Speak as one who has it, move as one who owns it, think as one who embodies it. You do not need to beg for blessings when you've already given birth to them in imagination. Hold that inner picture, guard it, nurture it, refuse to trade it for doubt, and when you do, the outer world will begin to change. Imagination is not idle, it is not fiction. It is the most powerful tool you possess. It is the beginning of every overflow, the origin of every miracle, and the silent architect of your destiny. What you imagine, you become. And what you become, the world must reflect. The old self must die for the new world to rise. This is not a poetic phrase, it is a spiritual law. You cannot carry the identity of who you were into the life that is calling you. The version of you that was attached to struggle, to fear, to lack, to waiting, that self cannot enter the state of overflow. It must be released. It must be buried. Every transformation requires a death, not of the body, but of the belief system. The stories you've told yourself about why things don't work, why you aren't enough, why life is hard, those stories have built a prison around your potential. And if you wish to rise into abundance, into peace, into power, you must let the old storyteller fade away. You cannot keep saying, I always struggle, and expect ease. You cannot keep affirming, nothing ever works out for me, and expect doors to open. These are not just words. They are identities. And identities have energy. They pull experiences to match them. So long as you continue to see yourself as the one who lacks, the world will reflect lack. It has to. The universe does not respond to what you say with your mouth. It responds to what you believe in your heart. If you believe you are the struggler, the one who barely gets by, then even if opportunities arrive, they will slip through your fingers. Because your inner self-image won't allow them to stay. To shift is not to do more, it is to become more. To let go of the version of you that was shaped by survival, by wounds, by disappointment. You must allow that self to die. Not with sadness, but with honor, because it brought you here. But now it can go. You must begin to see yourself as someone new, as someone worthy, whole, complete. You must wear the garments of abundance in the silence of your imagination. Long before anyone else can see it, you must walk as the person you are becoming, not the person you were. There is no bridge between the old self and the new world. You must leap. And yes, the leap feels like death. The death of comfort, the death of familiar pain, the death of control. But what waits on the other side is resurrection. You were never meant to live small. You were never meant to stay in cycles of lack. But the shift won't happen while you hold tightly to old identities. You must say goodbye to the victim, the beggar, the one who is waiting for permission. You must lay that self to rest, and in its place rise. Rise into the self who commands the room with quiet confidence. Rise into the one who expects miracles, not because they are entitled, but because they are aligned. Rise into the one who no longer seeks but is. The new world is already here, but only the new you can walk in it. So bury the doubt, the fear, the almost, and embody the I am. The death of the old self is not the end. It is the beginning of everything real, everything abundant, everything true. Let it go and rise. You are the cause, not the effect. This is the most liberating truth you will ever hear, and perhaps the most challenging to accept. For as long as you believe that life is happening to you, you will remain bound to reaction. You will live as a passenger, not a creator. But the moment you realize that everything around you, the people, the opportunities, the delays, the abundance or the lack, is a mirror of your inner state, you reclaim your power. Your thoughts are not harmless. Your inner conversations are not random. Every sentence you rehearse in the silence of your mind is an instruction to life. Every assumption you persist in is a blueprint for what must appear. This is not theory, it is law. You have been taught to respond to conditions, to wait for better circumstances to feel better, to change jobs, relationships, or locations, hoping something out there will shift what's going on inside. But it never lasts, because the outer is only echoing the inner. The world cannot give you what you have not first accepted within yourself. If your inner dialogue is filled with fear, life will give you reasons to be afraid. If you constantly tell yourself, nothing ever works out for me, then even good opportunities will find a way to collapse, because your belief system will sabotage them. Not consciously, but consistently. You must become aware of the stories you're telling. You must start listening to the conversations you're having in your own mind, not the ones with others, but the ones you have when you're alone. Those are the seeds of your reality. Those are the causes. What happens outside is just the fruit. The world is not against you. It is not unfair. It is simply reflective. Like a mirror, it shows you not what you want, but what you are being. If you want to change what the mirror reflects, you don't try to adjust the mirror, you adjust yourself. This means you must stop blaming conditions. Stop pointing to your past, your upbringing, the economy, or other people as the reasons why you are stuck. As long as you give them power, you stay powerless. But the moment you take full responsibility for your inner state, everything changes. You do not have to control the world. You only need to master your self-perception. Shift your inner identity from victim to victor, from lack to abundance, from waiting to receiving. Begin to speak to yourself in the language of overflow. Begin to imagine life working for you. Persist in that feeling, even when nothing around you has changed. And then it will. Reality bends to sustained inner conviction. This is not about pretending. It's about assuming, quietly, persistently, faithfully, until the assumption becomes your natural way of being. Once it does, life reorganizes around you. You are the cause, not the effect. And when you live from this truth, you no longer need to chase anything. You no longer need to fix everything. You simply shift within, and the world mirrors the shift. Overflow comes to the one who dwells, not visits. You cannot flirt with abundance and expect it to take root in your life. You cannot entertain the feeling of I have for a few moments in the morning, only to return to worry, doubt, and lack for the rest of the day, and then wonder why nothing changes. The law of creation responds not to brief glimpses, but to sustained dwelling. It responds to the state you live in, not the one you temporarily visit. To dwell in a state means to abide in it, to make it your home, your foundation, your identity. You no longer merely affirm abundance, you embody it. You no longer try to feel wealthy, you wake up with the quiet inner knowing that it is already yours, not because you can see the evidence, but because you have assumed the feeling as fact. This is the great difference between wishing and knowing. Wishing still carries the scent of doubt. Wishing says, maybe one day. But knowing says, it is already mine. And it is this knowing, this quiet certainty, that shifts the entire structure of your reality. When you dwell in overflow, you think from the end, not toward it. You do not hope for things to improve. You move through life as if they already have. You make decisions from your desired future, not your current limitations. You speak differently, you walk differently. You become the version of yourself who already has what they once sought. This is not about delusion. It is about divine alignment. You are aligning your inner state with the version of reality where your desire is fulfilled. And because all possibilities exist now, the one you align with must take form. It is law. But here is the part most overlooked. This state must become natural to you. It must become familiar. As long as it feels foreign, you will snap back to the old self. That is why persistence matters. Not in effort, but in feeling. You must return again and again to the state of the wish fulfilled, until it becomes the only truth you accept. And once it becomes natural, once you no longer need to convince yourself, it manifests effortlessly, not because you forced it, but because you became a match to it. Life had no choice but to reflect your dwelling place. This is why some people seem to attract abundance with ease, not because they are lucky, but because they have made abundance their home. Even when they had little, they felt like they had much. Even when nothing in the world looked different, their inner world was already overflowing. And eventually the outer world caught up. You must choose your dwelling place wisely. You cannot live in fear and expect peace. You cannot dwell in lack and expect overflow. The law is simple. Whatever you occupy inwardly, you create outwardly. So stop visiting abundance like a tourist. Move in, live there, think from there, act from there, give from there, speak from there. There, in the end, the truth is simple yet profound. Everything you desire is already here, waiting for you to align with it. Overflow is not something to chase, it is something to become. The shift begins within you, not in the world outside. When you surrender the old self, when you dwell in the state of I have, and when you boldly assume your desire as already fulfilled, life mirrors your inner transformation. You are the cause, you are the creator, and the moment you remember that, everything begins to change. Prepare for overflow, not with fear, not with striving, but with certainty, with peace, and with the power of your imagination. Thank you for listening. May you rise, may you line, and may your life overflow with all that is already yours. My friend, there comes a time in life when you no longer chase, no longer beg, no longer strive. That time is now, because the overflow is not something you work for, it is something you allow. The world has told you that you must labor, sacrifice, hustle to receive your good, but the truth is deeper, quieter, and infinitely more powerful. Your outer life is merely the outpictured image of what you've assumed within. The delays, the droughts, the detours, they did not come to stay. They came to ask you one question: will you persist in the unseen, even when the seen seems silent? Overflow is coming. But it doesn't come to the anxious. It doesn't rush in to please the desperate. It comes to the one who has prepared a place for it in their consciousness. A room furnished with faith, decorated with expectancy, and lit by the calm knowing. It is done. You are not small. You are not overlooked. The overflow isn't for someone out there. It is for the one who dares to feel the reality of it now. Imagine it. Not someday, but now. Not later, but here. Not with clenched fists, but with open hands. There is no power greater than belief in the unseen. For when you believe that the unseen is real, the world must obey. The money you thought was far, it is now being drawn to your name. The opportunities you felt forgotten by, they are circling back to your energy. The love, the healing, the freedom, the peace, they are already yours. You are the doorway. When you unlock the inner realm with certainty, the outer realm floods in with blessings. You do not make the overflow happen. You make room for it. Your job is not to question when or how. It is to assume that it is already done. Silence the noise of the senses. Close your eyes and feel the fulfillment. It is not imagination, it is creation. The moment you feel it real, it becomes your future. So, I ask you now, are you ready? Because overflow is coming to your life, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, not by accident, not by luck, but by law. And the law says, as you believe, so shall it be done unto you. Get ready. Your season has arrived. Your abundance is not pending, it is present. Your overflow is not coming, it is here. All you must do now is receive it. What you see right now, the circumstances of your life, the money in your account, the people around you, the challenges or comforts you're facing, is not the truth. It is not who you are. It is not what is ultimately destined for you. Rather, it is the echo, a delayed reflection, a mirror showing you the remnants of what you used to believe. The reality you walk through today was shaped by the silent assumptions you held yesterday, last week, last year. Your life is not a result of random forces. It is not determined by fate, luck, or outer conditions. It is shaped moment by moment by what you accept to be true in your inner world, the invisible assumptions you hold about yourself and the world. They are the architects of your experience. And because assumptions take time to crystallize into form, the world you see now is not reacting to your current thoughts, but to what you once felt to be true. This is why many people feel stuck. They change their words, but not their beliefs. They speak affirmations with doubt in their hearts. They visualize abundance while expecting rejection. They are hoping for overflow while living from lack. And then they say, "See, nothing is changing." But the truth is, change happens the moment you shift the assumption, not the moment the outer world shows it. The world is a faithful servant. It simply echoes what you embody. If you assumed lack, it gave you more lack. If you assumed that love always leaves, it arranged scenes to prove you right. If you assumed you must struggle to be worthy, it became your constant taskmaster. The world is not cruel. It is obedient. It waits patiently for you to change your mind about yourself. This is the secret. The present moment is always the crossroads. You can keep reacting to what you see and repeat the cycle, or you can step into the deeper truth, that you hold the power to shift everything, not by force, not by effort, but by a silent inner decision to believe differently. Your overflow does not lie in the distant future. It lies in a new assumption, planted in faith. It lies in the quiet inner knowing that says, "I no longer identify with lack. I no longer identify with fear. I am aligned with abundance, with love, with peace. It is already mine." When you accept this, not as a concept, but as a feeling, your outer world begins to change. Subtly at first, then suddenly. You don't need to figure out the how. You only need to assume the state. Assume it fully. Live from it inwardly and watch the outer begin to echo your new truth. This is how the overflow comes. Not through striving, but through stillness. Not by chasing results, but by assuming identity. So if what you see today doesn't reflect the life you want, don't panic, don't despair. Just remind yourself, this is the echo. I'm not bound by it. I'm free to choose a new assumption. And because I do, my overflow is not only possible, it is inevitable. Imagination is not just fantasy. It is the first act of creation. Every structure, every invention, every breakthrough in this world began as a thought, a vision, a picture in the unseen. Imagination is the seed, planted not in the ground, but in consciousness. And when this seed is nurtured with belief, it must grow. It must manifest. This is not philosophy, it is law. You are not merely a thinker or a doer, you are a creator. And your most powerful tool is the ability to imagine. The moment you dare to close your eyes and see yourself in a new state, wealthy, loved, peaceful, healed, you have stepped into the divine workshop where all things are formed. The world outside may contradict it. Your senses may scream that it's not real. But if you persist in imagination, it becomes more than an image. It becomes your new identity. This is the secret few understand. If you can imagine something clearly and feel it as true, it already exists in a dimension unseen to your natural eyes. You don't have to beg for it, you don't have to chase it, and you certainly don't have to wait years for it to arrive. The moment you accept it in consciousness, it begins its journey to you. Life responds not to your wishes, but to your inner conviction. Imagination is how you rise above circumstances. When the bank account looks empty, you close your eyes and feel the weight of abundance. When the world says you're alone, you imagine the warmth of love surrounding you. When your body feels weak, you picture it strong, vibrant, and whole. This is not pretending, it is not delusion, it is creation. In its purest form. Your current life is the harvest of past imaginal acts, some conscious, some unconscious. You may have imagined lack, conflict, or failure and accepted those visions without question. And now you may find yourself surrounded by those very things. But the same power that brought unwanted things into your life can bring beauty, wealth, and peace. The only question is, what are you willing to imagine now? You must become bold in vision. Stop limiting your imagination to what seems realistic. Reality bends to the one who dares to feel the unseen as real. Imagine yourself in your dream home, walking freely, living richly, see the world blessing you. Feel the overflow, smell it, hear it, touch it in your mind. And most importantly, assume it is already done. Your imagination is the realm where nothing is impossible. It doesn't care about the odds or logic or statistics. It only asks, can you feel it real? And if you can, it is yours. Do not misuse this power by imagining worst-case scenarios, by replaying fear, by mentally living in cycles of worry. Those too will manifest. Instead, train yourself to dwell in the world you want before it appears. Speak from that world. Think from that world. React as if you already live in it. Imagination is the seed of overflow, and just as a seed once planted silently pushes through the soil and breaks into form, so too does your vision bloom when you water it with unwavering belief. Whatever you dare to imagine and accept as true is already yours. Overflow does not respond to frantic energy. It does not show up when you are desperate, anxious, or chasing. It comes when you are still, when your inner world has become a place of quiet expectation, not because you're doing nothing, but because you're doing everything that matters in the unseen. True abundance flows toward peace, not panic. The more calmly you expect it, the faster it appears. There is a difference between wanting something and knowing it is already yours. Wanting comes with tension, knowing comes with stillness. When you are truly in the state of belief, you are not rushing, striving, or overthinking. You are settled, rooted, and sure. You no longer need to check for signs because you have become the sign. You walk differently, you speak differently, not because of what you see, but because of what you know. This is the paradox of spiritual law. The more urgently you try to make something happen, the more you delay it. Why? Because urgency stems from fear, and fear is a signal to the universe that you don't yet believe. You cannot manifest what you fearfully doubt. You manifest what you faithfully embody. Stillness is not laziness. It is power under control. It is alignment with a higher order that does not waver, even when appearances suggest lack. Chaos blocks, it scrambles the signal. When you are emotionally chaotic, obsessing, worrying, doubting, you are sending mixed messages. One moment you declare, it is mine. The next you check your phone, your bank account, your inbox, looking for evidence. But this very looking reveals that you do not yet believe. The one who is still doesn't need to search because they have already found it within. Faith invites. It's an invisible magnet. It quietly draws all things toward it without strain. Faith doesn't beg or plead. It doesn't push against time or worry about delay. It knows that the unseen is more real than the seen, and that the seen will soon conform. Faith is the highest form of spiritual rest. It allows you to remain grounded even in uncertainty, because your certainty is no longer dependent on the world. This stillness is not passive, it's creative. It is the space where ideas are born, where divine timing aligns, where the soul hears instructions. It is the silence between the notes that makes the music. When your mind is still, your imagination becomes clearer. You begin to feel the reality of what you've asked for. You no longer visualize from need, but from fulfillment. To live in overflow, you must become still within. You must learn to withdraw your attention from the noise of the world and anchor it in the inner feeling of, it is done. Do not be fooled by delay or lack of evidence. Remain still and the evidence will appear. Remain still and the overflow will rush in. Impressed down, shaken together and running over. Let the world chase, let others strive. You remain still. You remain sure. You remain aligned. For in your stillness, the universe moves. In your calm, the blessing flows. And in your unwavering faith, abundance finds you. Easily, effortlessly, and right on time. You are not waiting on overflow. It has always been ready, already prepared, already complete in the invisible realm. It is not delayed, it is not lost, and it is certainly not withheld from you. The truth is, overflow is waiting on you, waiting for your agreement, waiting for your inner permission, waiting for you to assume the feeling of already having it, completely, deeply, and without question. You see, life is not responding to your words alone. It is responding to your inner state. And the moment you fully embody the state of abundance, something extraordinary happens. Life begins to reorganize. People shift. Opportunities arise. Events rearrange themselves, not randomly but by design. Your outer world begins to match your inner conviction. But most people live in a false waiting room. They say, I'm waiting for the right time. I'm waiting for the right job. I'm waiting for the universe to bless me. Yet they don't realize that the blessing is already here. It's just invisible to the natural eye. It's waiting for them to feel it real. Until you shift your inner world, the outer world has nothing to respond to. It simply reflects the vibration you carry. This is not about positive thinking, it's about assumption. There is a profound difference between hoping for something and assuming it as already yours. Hope looks to the future with uncertainty. Assumption lives in the present with inner certainty. When you assume a state, you no longer wonder if it will happen. You know that it is happening now, even if your senses haven't caught up yet. The mind often wants to wait for proof. It wants to see something before it believes. But that is not how creation works. You must first believe, deeply, emotionally, fully, and then the outer world conforms. It may seem backward, but it is the ancient law. The outer follows the inner. And so if you are still waiting, it is only because you have not yet shifted your dominant feeling. Overflow is not summoned by force, it is received by alignment. You must become the person who has already received it in consciousness. You must carry yourself differently, speak differently, think differently, not from a place of pretending, but from a place of knowing. When you begin to feel and live as though your abundance is already here, the world bends to meet you in that state. Do not ask, when will it come? Instead, ask, am I truly living in the feeling of already having it? If not, that is the only thing you must do. You don't need to chase, strive, or wait for the perfect sign. Just assume the end. Assume the joy. Assume the freedom. Assume the overflow. And do it now, not later, not someday. For the moment you do, things begin to move, doors begin to open. Not because life suddenly decided to be kind, but because you finally became available to receive what was always yours. So remember, you are not waiting on overflow. Overflow is waiting on you. Waiting on your clarity, waiting on your boldness, waiting on your decision to live as though it's already done. Because when you do, it is done. There is a quiet truth that frees the soul once it is understood. Everything you are seeking, everything you long to see in your outer world already exists within you. The world outside is not the source, it is the reflection. It cannot give you what you have not already given yourself in consciousness. And so when you search for signs, for evidence, for proof that things are changing before you choose to believe, you invert the order of creation. You delay what is already yours. This is why you must stop looking to the world. Stop searching for clues that your desire is on its way. Stop scanning for confirmation in people's words, in bank accounts, in job offers, in phone calls, or in timelines. Because all signs follow belief. They never precede it. The external world is not a leader. It is a mirror. It simply reflects back what you carry within. If you do not believe in your abundance, the world cannot show it to you. If you do not believe you are loved, the world cannot reflect love back to you. And yet, the moment you assume the feeling of already having what you desire, the mirror shifts. The image changes. Life reorganizes to align with your inner state. Not because the world is magical, but because you are. So many remain stuck because they are waiting to see before they believe. They say, I'll believe I'm wealthy when the money comes. I'll believe I'm loved when the person shows up. I'll believe I'm healed when the pain is gone. But this is not creation, this is reaction. This is faith in appearances, not in truth. True transformation happens the moment you withdraw your attention from what is and fix your focus on what is desired as though it already is. Looking within is not about escaping reality. It is about creating it. The inner world is where the blueprint of your life is drawn. The imagination, the emotion, the assumption, this is the canvas on which your future is painted. When you close your eyes and live from the state of your wish fulfilled, you tap into the real power. You become the cause. You stop reacting and start initiating. That is the secret. The world is loud, distracting, filled with noise and opinion. It tells you what's possible, what's likely, what's realistic. But none of that matters when you've turned inward. In the silence of your inner sanctuary, you become untouchable. You no longer need the world to agree with your vision. You only need to agree with it yourself. That agreement is what draws the unseen into form. When you feel uncertain, when doubt creeps in, don't run to the world for reassurance. Run inward. Re-enter the state. Reimagine the scene. Reclaim the feeling. Because everything you seek is born from that inner conviction. You are not here to chase signs. You are here to be the sign. To carry such strong belief within you that the world has no choice but to yield. So stop looking outside for what only lives within. The moment you stop searching for confirmation and start embodying belief, the signs will come rushing in, not because you chased them, but because they had no choice. All signs follow belief, and belief begins in you. There is a law that governs all manifestation, and it does not fail. It is precise, impartial, and constant. This law states, what you assume to be true, persistently and emotionally you will live. You do not need to strive, struggle, or exhaust yourself to receive what you desire. You do not earn overflow through effort. You receive it through conviction, through the unwavering inner acceptance that what you have imagined is already yours. The world would have you believe otherwise. It teaches you that you must hustle harder, sacrifice more, and prove your worth to be worthy of abundance. But this is a distortion of truth. Your life does not unfold based on the intensity of your outer action, but by the power of your inner agreement. What you accept inwardly as real, what you rehearse in the quiet chambers of your mind, becomes the script that the outer world performs. Overflow is not a reward, It is a reflection. It comes not to the anxious worker, but to the one who lives from the state of already having received, the one who no longer questions if it's possible or when it will come, but who walks as though it is already done. That state of inner certainty is the soil from which harvests grow. You are always assuming something. Every day, consciously or unconsciously, you are assuming certain truths about yourself. I'm not good enough, it's hard to make money, love never lasts, I always get overlooked, and as subtle as those assumptions may be, they shape the structure of your life. You are not punished for them, you are simply living them. That's the power of the law. But the beauty of this truth is that you can change your assumptions right now. You can begin to assume that life favors you, that money flows to you, that love surrounds you, that doors open without force. And if you persist in that assumption, not just in words, but in feeling, then your world must transform to reflect it. Not maybe, not if you're lucky, but certainly. Because the law is certain. There is no deception in the law. It gives back exactly what you plant. If you imagine a scene of overflow, rich in emotion, filled with joy, and you return to it often with conviction, the world around you will shift to make it real. It is not up to chance. It is not dependent on timing or status or connections. The law doesn't care who you are in the world. It only reflects who you are in consciousness. So the real work is inner, not outer noise, but inner clarity, not frantic effort, but quiet confidence. You do not need to prove your worth. You only need to assume it. Stand firm in your vision. Live from the end. Let your imagination construct the life you desire, and let your assumption anchor it as truth. The law cannot fail. It does not waver. What you consistently assume about your health, your wealth, your relationships, your destiny is what you will live. Not because the world decided to favor you, but because you finally decided to favor yourself. The inner scene creates the outer harvest. So plant deliberately, water it with belief, and prepare, because the overflow is already on its way. Everything you desire, abundance, peace, love, fulfillment, is not something to chase, but something to assume. Overflow is not waiting in a distant future, it is waiting in your present belief. The world is not holding you back, your old assumptions are. But the moment you shift within, the entire structure of your life begins to respond. Your imagination is the seed, stillness is the soil, and conviction is the water that makes it grow. When you stop searching the world for signs and start embodying the end result, overflow is no longer a hope, it becomes your natural state. Remember, what you assume, you live. The law is certain, so choose your assumption carefully and live in the certainty that your overflow has already begun. Thank you, message. Thank you for joining me on this powerful journey inward. May you walk with conviction, imagine boldly, remain still in faith, and live in the overflow that was always yours. Stay aligned, stay aware, and remember, your inner world creates it all.